Hello and welcome to Atheist Torah Study. My name is Emma and I'm the host. Today we're talking about Parsha Matot-Masei. Parsha Matot-Masei is Numbers chapter 30 to 36. It's pretty long. It's Parshas number 42 and 43 in the weekly Torah portions, which means after this, there's only 11 to go. It actually starts with talking about making a vow, which is really relevant to what I'm doing because I made a vow to do a year of atheist Torah study. And actually started it 2 years ago. And I made it through like maybe seven or eight of them. And then it just was so overwhelming I wasn't able to continue because it's a lot to do this every week, even though it's not really that much. I mean, it's a lot of preparation. Um, But anyway, so then after that, I took a year off. And then after a year, I thought, I really want to finish this. It was important to me. And so I picked it back up. And then this summer, I kind of fell off the wagon again because I was on vacation and I lost a lot of time. And now I'm catching up again. So, anyways, it's a vow I made, and we'll be talking about vows in just a minute. But I didn't really make a vow to anyone or to anything. It's for me, it's kind of like I started doing this because like I go to Torah study every week, and I'm raising my hand all the time, and I always have something I want to say, and it's like I just want to go on forever talking. And I've tried like a bunch of different things over the years, like to do Torah study. I started queer Torah study three times at my shul. The third time it really took, and it got now there's somebody leading it who's doing a great job with it. I also did a Torah chat before Torah study during the pandemic, and we did that. I did that for about a year, but I just never have enough time to say what I want to say because I want to talk all the time and I've got all these things I want to say. So I decided that I would just do this instead, and hopefully I'm not bothering people as much as I used to. So this is Parsha Matot-Masei. It's the last two parshas in the book of Numbers. Um Matot means tribes, and Masei, what does Masei mean? Masei means journeys. That's right. Tribes and journeys. Yeah, that sounds about right. In Matot, the main topics are the laws of vows and oaths, the war against Midian, the division of the spoils of war, the tribes of Reuben and Gad. And then Parsha Matsei is the 42 journeys through the wilderness, the boundaries of the land, the appointment of leaders, cities for the Levites, cities of refuge, the laws of murder and witnesses, and the daughters of Zelophehad. Um, that's kind of interesting how it ends on the daughters of Zelophehad. Um, let's see anything else. Let's see, it says this double portion concludes with the narrative of Israel's wandering in the wilderness and prepares for the transition into Deuteronomy, with Moses organizing the people before they enter the land of Canaan. So, anyways, yeah, we're gonna get into it. I'm not sure exactly where I want to start. There's a lot in this parsha. So I will say, based on my many years of previous Torah study, that there is one part of the double parsha that um I think is great, and it's the cities of refuge. So maybe I'll start with something good and then I'll do something bad. So because basically like the entire parsha of Matot is literally I think it's the most offensive parsha in the entire Torah. I mean, the Torah is really hard to deal with. I have to be honest. It's a really difficult document. I mean, I'm coming to understand more and more what kind of a document the Torah is. I don't really understand why it's been dragged all the way through history. But as an atheist, I don't understand why any of these texts have been dragged through history. I mean, they all have like really kind of strange origins, and I don't feel like they really address some of the most basic questions that people have about their existence. I don't feel like the documents really answer fundamental, meaningful questions about life, but there is this container within the idea. It's the idea of a God, and the idea of this God is like this vessel that people carry, and it gives people some kind of sense of connectivity. So maybe that idea has been replaced in modernity because everybody's literate now, and literacy and some of the benefits of literacy, especially when you combine it with education, um, certainly have the potential to change human minds. And so this is like getting more at like people still don't know why they exist, what the point of our existence is. And I mean, I think that people still look to religion to try to find the meaning of their existence. I mean, unfortunately, evolution is not enough for most people to say, oh, that's good enough for me. I mean, I think that in the future, that will be where we resolve as a species. I mean, at some point, we'll resolve ourselves to the fundamental nature of the universe. I mean, the fundamental nature of life on Earth, which is really rooted in evolution. I mean, it's it's not a great, it's certainly not the same kind of answer that we get with religion. I mean, when you look at religion, you get a very specific kind of narrative arc for the purpose of human existence. I mean, human existence, it has a meaning, it's tied to some grand cosmic narrative. It fulfills all of the, it helps to activate all of the points in our brains that get us excited about living. So it gives people a great feeling about a sense of destiny. It gives people a sense of cosmic importance. It gives people a sense of meaning. It helps people to connect each other with the other person. So it acts as a kind of a fluid for society. It's uh, it's it's part of something that's just a part of our evolutionary heritage. I mean, I think that almost any animal that came out of just being an animal into being a talking animal like we are might go through the same kind of process. They might create gods. I don't know. I don't know what other animals would do. This is what we did. And no, I mean, at the end of the road is evolution. At the end of the road is you look at the world and you say, this is what it is. Here's what the purpose of evolution was. And everything that you get out of your life, I mean, all of those ways that just make you feel so great about living, those are extras. Those are perks that you get, that are just they're just extras. And it's not anything. I mean, it's not, you live as long as you live. And if we're so lucky that we're able to create a culture that we can carry from one generation to the next, then great. We have another narrative that we can carry with us. If we're so lucky that we can utilize the tools of science to unpack and understand the universe, then we're even more lucky. I mean, to me, it's like we don't need religion because we have everything else. I mean, everything that we've created. And it's been such a great gift to be able to unpack the world. And we have universities and we have We have books and we have speakers and we have this history that has taken over. This was when we had nothing or understood so little. This is what we had. And it was great that we had this. Well, I don't know if it was great or not, but we had this. This is part of what we use to carry ourselves through existence. And so to me, it's good to know how we carried ourselves through existence. But there's lots of different ways that people have carried themselves through existence. There's lots of stories. Not all the stories got written down. Many of the stories were forgotten. Some of the stories were destroyed. A lot of the stories were only oral, and so they became part of oral traditions. This is a story that was written down, or it, I don't know. I mean, I don't think that this particular story was an origin story. I don't even know if it was an origin story for Canaanite people. I mean, it may have been, but I don't really know for sure because we just don't have any evidence. We don't have the evidence that we need to make the claims that are made about the Torah. I mean, we know for sure that the Torah existed in the third century BC. We know that. And we know that, I mean, I think that when you look at the Torah in relationship to other documents around it, there was clearly a flourishing of scriptural writing happening beginning around the period of the Hasmonean era that continued, for centuries. I mean, in a way, the Torah was kind of the beginning of a set of scriptural writings where people really began to struggle with what is our existence? People used to just worship the gods. They went to temples. I mean, they kind of understood the gods are the gods, but now language had evolved far enough that there was this new form of literature, this kind of sacred literature. It was more than just epic poems. It was an attempt to explain everything. It was kind of going for um, the big picture. And that's, I mean, the Torah is one example of trying to do that. And there were a whole bunch, and it was also, psychology and law. There was a lot of different attempts at doing things. I mean, if we were to write a Torah today, it would be a very different kind of Torah. Um, but it's like there's this it's a oh yeah, it's a Torah study that's posted on Zoom. It happens once a week. It's really good. It's one of my favorites. I mean, besides the one that I attend, this is one of my favorites. And it's called I think you can find it on Zoom looking for Shulcan I think it's Shulcan PDX. And it's a great Torah study. So part of what the rabbi does is he reads the Torah. He's just the sweetest person. Such a nice man, just really sweet. And everybody reads the Torah. They all take turns reading the Torah. And then the rabbi, like who's read the Torah and thought about it, who also I assume he has some background in art, although I don't know if he does or not. But every week he's got some amazing artist that he highlights, who is like the work that they do is directly connected to the Torah. And he uses the art to talk about deeper themes in the Torah. And I think it's great. I totally love it. And the reason that I bring this up is because I want to like kind of take that idea and sort of turn it around to the other way. I mean, which is probably what he intends anyways. But if you look at the Torah as a work of art, then I think you have a better understanding of what it is. I mean, you wouldn't look at a Van Gogh painting and say, "Oh, that's reality." I mean, if you look at Starry Night, that's how Van Gogh felt. it was how he felt. And he's painting the stars in the sky. And it's like, it's he's painting something so comforting because he was so lonely. And but he wasn't alone. I mean, he was, just look at what he saw. He saw this amazing world, that was just full of life and color and movement. And he put that in his paintings. And but you wouldn't look at that because I mean I look at the sky every night. I don't see that. I mean even when I go to out to Eastern Oregon and look up at the sky, I don't see that. I mean I see when you go to like the really dark sky country in Oregon and you look at the sky, you can sort of see the Milky Way. It's like it's a little cloudy sort of. It's like really faint light kind of in the background. It's a little bit lighter than the blackness of space. And you can see the stars, and then, I mean, you can see the Milky Way, but it's very, very, very faint. So, just like I mean, you look at a Van Gogh painting for inspiration, and it's like the Torah is kind of like that. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily look at the Torah there are places in the Torah where I would look for inspiration, really. But the Torah as a whole is like, it's like a painting. It's like a work of art. It's like poetry. Like if you just imagine the entire Torah is basically just a book of poetry. That's kind of what the Torah is. It's not meant to be taken literally. It's I mean, plenty of people do, most, including a lot of Jews I know. I wouldn't say most, but I don't mean literally, but it's like I think so. If you think that the Torah is the word of God, I think this is what I'm trying to get at. If you think the Torah is the word of God, then you're going to take it not exactly literally, but you're going to say, "Oh, this is God speaking." You're going to talk about God all the time. Everything's going to be God, God, God this, God that. If you look at the Torah as something that human beings did, and not just as something that human beings did, but if you look at the Torah as you have to get rid of one of the themes I've talked about throughout this entire thing. And because mostly, I mean, one of my bits of learning that I've done this year is I've learned about how the Torah is a document of religious nationalism. So, like part of what I've done this year is I've really tried to get at some of the roots of where I understand the Torah is coming from in terms of its place in history. But you have to get rid of that if you really want to get the Torah. And you don't have to. I mean, I'm just talking about it because I don't know why. I'm just talking about it because I'm caught up in it. There's something about it that is very interesting to me. I mean, I really do have a real interest in the Torah. It's not just because I was raised monotheist. It's not just because I used to believe in God. It's because I find it really interesting. I mean, it's interesting. It's so great being able to really think about how people wrote words and what they meant thousands of years ago. And but I'm getting off point. My point is, so if you look at the Torah and you think of it not as a political document, not as the word of God, you know, not as something about history. Really, the way to look at the Torah is you have to look at it like it's a piece of art. And I just mean like really in the most literal way, like look at it like it's a piece of art. Not even like it's poetry, because there's a lot of places in the Torah where it's not poetry. But if you step way back and you just put the Torah in a frame, and it's like, not that you're looking at the actual article of the Torah, the two scrolls. Like that is kind of a work of art anyways, if you just look at it that way. But if you take the Torah and if you've read it and you understand it, and you've gotten to the point that I'm at with it, and you just step back and you say, okay, this is a piece of art. It has the same, I should use the same tools that I use when I'm looking at visual art to understand the Torah. And that's, I'm going to imagine that whether this work was created by one person or by 100 people, this is obviously a collaborative community project. And it was created a long time ago, so it's ancient art. But because it's been carried all the way through the generations, it has another kind of meaning. It doesn't just have the meaning that the Hasmoneans put on it. It has another kind of meaning because it's been carried through time. So it's not just ancient art, it's also contemporary art. So if you look at it like it's contemporary art, then it makes a lot more sense. And it's easier to kind of understand it because it has flows, it has directions, it has a lot of stuff that you're just gonna scribble away, you know. I really think the worst way to look at the Torah is to think that it's the word of God. Like, if you look at the Torah and you think it's the word of God, then you're just not going to get anywhere with it. Because I just think that's the worst way to think about the Torah. I mean, I really do. And I think that like if you look at it and you think with certainty, this applies to the Bible too, but if you think with certainty, oh, this is the word of God, what you're doing is you're stepping off of you're stepping into your imagination. And in my opinion, what you're really doing is you're giving yourself a false sense of certainty, a false sense of security about the world. It's like by connecting this text with a false sense of security about the world, you're giving the work of art something that it shouldn't have. I don't I don't mean that it doesn't intend to have that. I mean everything in the text intends it to have that. It's written with the very direct intention that you are supposed to read it and have the absolute false sense of certainty and security that comes from a belief in God. So you're supposed to look at that and it's supposed to make you believe in God. And by believing in God, it's supposed to inspire you to act justly in the world and to be fair at its best. At its best, it does that. But that's the worst way to read the text because you've basically lost everything that's good in it when you do that. You've basically erased. I mean, there's times when people read the text when they forget about their certainty and their security. And I mean, if you think you need to read the text from the perspective of a belief in God, then the best way to read the text is as an existentialist. Instead of having certainty about life and certainty about the future, read the text as an existentialist if you need to read it that way. And it'll make so much more sense then. It'll just make so much more sense. But I invite you to step even further back from that. Just completely forget about God. Just don't even pay attention to God. Anytime you see the word God in the Torah, just forget about it. Or just, wipe it from your mind. It's not easy to do, but just read it like a piece of art, and then you'll really get it because that's what it is. It's this collaborative community project, and that's what I've got for today. Anyway, so let's go ahead and read some text. So, like I said, I'm going to start with the cities of refuge because that's one of the few parts of Matot-Masei that I can handle. And so, by the way, we should talk about where we are in the story. So, in the story, this is the end. It's like the it's like that song by the Doors, this is the end, my only friend, the end. Something like that. Um, I shouldn't have just sung on camera. That was terrible. I still have a male voice. I'll probably never really lose my male voice. I mean, I'm transgender, but one of the things about being transgender, if you are male and you start taking hormones long after your puberty, then you will have some things change about your body, but your voice will never change. You can do things to try to change your voice. And I mean, I've had lots of people on, I have a radio show where I talk about transgender issues. And, I've talked about voice a lot, but I'm just not one of those people who wants to go through the effort of trying to change my voice. I mean, it seems artificial to me. Um, there's ways that trans women will push their voice so that they get a higher register and so that they speak in ways that are sort of understood as being more culturally female. And I mean, I respect that. I do, but it's just if I have to constantly go through the effort of trying to change how I speak, just so that I can pass, I'm just not going to do it. It's too much work. It feels artificial. And anyway, so that's one of the areas where as a trans person, I'm not gonna. I mean, I've done a lot of other things as a transgender person, but that's just not one of the things I will do. So my voice is my voice. I just have to live with it. Anyways, so this is a really great part of the Parsha. It's actually not too bad. The first time I ever, it's the we're right. This is the end. This is the end of the. Okay, so this is the end of the story. Um, I'm not sure exactly where in the story they went from year two to year 39. It must have been a little further back. That wouldn't be, that is something I wouldn't mind learning. So I'm going to do that while I'm just sitting here talking to you. When did the story go from year two to year 39 in the Torah? Let's see what it says. Just because I keep on talking about that, it never says, but oh, it never says. Oh, 37. It never says now 37 years have passed. Instead, the narrative makes a dramatic jump. First day of the second month. It doesn't really say. Oh, here we go. Here's the time jump. Okay. This is what I was wondering about. Let's do the time jump again. Um, that's from the Rocky Horror Picture Show. It's not actually the time jump, though. What is it? It's the let's do the dance again. I can't remember. Anyways, it says here it occurred in Numbers 20, chapter 1. The Israelites, the whole congregation, came to the wilderness of Zin in the first month. It doesn't say in the 40th year, but we know from elsewhere that this is the 40th year of Exodus because later in Numbers chapter 33, 38, it says, Aaron went up to Mount Hor in the 40th year after the Israelites had come out of Egypt. Since Aaron dies only a few months after arriving at Kadesh in Numbers chapter 20, it's understood to occur in year 40. Okay, so the Torah never, I was wrong. I thought there was some place, so when I was reading the Torah this week, I mean, and I was going over the end of Matot-Masei where it talks about all of their journeys, basically. I thought, oh, this is where it is. It's like right here at the end of Matot-Masei. But no, it never really says, at least according to this, it never really says. It's just inferred by making a connection between the death of Aaron and when they come into Kadesh. But the point is that this is the end of the Torah. So Deuteronomy, which is the last book we're going to read for Torah study, is just the recounting of the life of Moses. It's Moses kind of talks about not just his life, he talks about the whole history of the people up until this point. So Moses is written as, kind of a grand narrative character. He's giving like the grand summary, which is really it's the writer's summary. The writer is kind of retelling the story again. Um, and the reason that the writer's doing that is because they know that this is an oral. The people who are writing this, I mean, they're writing this at a time where like they don't even assume that there's going to be a bunch of people around analyzing their text and speculating on it. These are people who are literate in a world of almost entirely illiterate people. And the way that the Torah is told, the way that the Torah is written, is for people to listen to. I mean, the way that you did a Torah study, the way you did a Torah service in a shul was you had to have a Torah. And then you didn't just have to have a Torah, you also had to have at least one person who could read a Torah. And if you had one person who could read a Torah, then everybody else could listen. So when they wrote the Torah, they wrote it because they wanted it to be listened to. And so everything about it in terms of its construction as a literary device is meant to be something that's supposed to be heard. Now, Richard Friedman, who um, has been a big impact on my thinking around the Torah, talked about how one of the things I read was that there was a tradition of reading the Torah once a year. Like the king would come out and read the Torah, or not the king. The there would be like at one of the festivals they would read the Torah. Anyways, maybe I got that wrong. That's just what I remember was that like you know after the Torah was redacted and put together, then once a year somebody would come out and read the whole Torah. It'd be like a straight read all the way through. And I think it took all day. Let me see. How long did it take to read the Torah out loud at a festival? Let's see, how long did it take? Uh, no, no, that's not what I was asking. How long does it take to do a straight read of the Torah out loud at, say, a festival? Let's see what it says. How long would it take to do the Torah? Uh, it says if you read the Torah straight through at a festival, if you're doing it at a brisk pace, you could do it in about 12 hours. And if you included pauses for um, blessings and breaks, it's about 16 hours. It says the Torah is 80,000 Hebrew words. So if you did it in a straight read at a festival all day long, it would basically take all day to read it. Now, that's just something, this is not something that I have any idea has ever been done. I just kind of guessed that that's maybe one of the things that happened in oral culture. It says there is no evidence that ancient Israelites regularly read the entire Torah aloud at festivals. By the Second Temple period, festival readings were generally selected passages, and Hachel ceremony described in Deuteronomy was understood in later Jewish tradition as a reading of key sections rather than all 5 books. So if someone in antiquity had attempted literally to do a straight read of the Torah, it would take about a half a day to a full day. And I guess when I read Richard Elliott Friedman, I just assumed that that was one of the things they did. And that may have just been my imagination. That's why this is my own personal Torah commentary. It's why I'm not a biblical scholar. It's just me, just talking. All right, so I'm gonna go to the cities of refuge, and I'm gonna at least get that done. I may not get anything else done today, but I will do the cities of refuge because it's really not bad. Let's see if this is it. Let's see. Here's the thing about the portions, the land, chieftains. Oh, did I miss it? The prize. It's yeah. I think this is it. Six. Oh yeah, okay. It is kind of neat that this is the end of the Torah because it shows maybe that the Torah has learned something from itself. Like, so the cities of refuge kind of it has to do with like what do you do if somebody's committed manslaughter? And it's not a bad opening for what people later do with the Talmud, um, where they kind of ask themselves the same questions, only they go into way more detail in the Talmud. And it's certainly not a bad example for case law, which unfortunately still has a lot of problems in America. I mean, we really do have problems in this country with how we do sentencing and how we assign fault for something like manslaughter. But at the same time, I mean, at least we try to do something that's something. It's not great, but I mean, I can't talk about the whole legal system. I mean, the legal system is huge and all the cases vary. So I'm just going to stick with this. So this is kind of about what do you do when somebody commits manslaughter? And it's an interesting idea. So why don't we read it and then I'll talk about it for about 10, maybe 10 minutes. And I guess that'll be it for this one because I've already been talking so much. Okay, chapter 35, Numbers, verse 1. So first we're talking about the cities. This is so basically what's happening is that they're about to go into the land. Uh they've I'm gonna skip, the last Parsha Pinchas, I went on and on about militarism. And so I'm just gonna skip Matot this year. If I ever do this again, I don't think I'm ever gonna do this again in my life. But if I ever do this again, then when I come to Matot, I swear, I make an oath. I make an oath to the universe that I will talk about Matot because Matot is just one sick Torah portion. It's just sick and it's so sick. I mean, the things that are described in Matot are just unforgivable. It shouldn't be in the Torah. It's there. It's what it is. You have to read it every year and be reminded of how horrible it is, but it's there. I think it's the worst in the Torah. And it's interesting that, the worst part of the Torah comes right before the end. So I don't know. Anyways, I'm not going to talk about it. It's a bunch of death. It's a bunch of murder. It's just, Moses kind of going off the rails, basically. All right. We're just going to do Masei, chapter 35 today. And this is right at the very end of the Torah. So hang on, I'm going to take a pause for just a minute because if I don't, my computer will stop because I need to plug it in. So I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. All right, like I said, we're almost done here. Um, yeah, just about maybe 10 minutes left. So we'll do cities of refuge, and that'll be all I'll have time for today. Matot-Masei, chapter 35. So like I said, this is the end of the Torah, and basically what they're talking about is they're talking about things that They're basically talking about things that they, oh, kitty, kitty, kitty. They're basically talking here. They're basically talking about things that they can do as they're coming into the land. They're sort of, it's unfortunately what they're doing is they're saying, well, when you go into the land, you can take the cities that belong to the other people. And then, of course, you can build your own cities and you can destroy the cities of the people who already live there. This is all in Matot. And so that's all just assumed. Like somehow God is with them. And so that gives them permission to just take other people's houses, you know, which is terrible. But anyways, that's what's in there. And but then it's also kind of telling you I have this new idea. Here's this new idea in the Torah. And it's when you go into the land, then you can have these quote unquote cities of refuge. And it's kind of a cool idea. I mean, it's at least it's something, it's still it's still pretty. I mean, this is all just so it's just all so primitive. Their justice, the idea of justice in this culture is just so uh, it's hard to deal with. It's always hard to deal with. It doesn't matter when I read it. But it's something. It's a little something. So here's the text. God spoke to Moses in the steppes of Moab at the Jordan near Jericho, saying, instruct the Israelite people to assign out of the holdings apportion them towns for the Levites to dwell in. You shall also assign to the Levites pasture land around their towns. The town shall be theirs to dwell in, and pasture shall be for the cattle they own and all their other animals. The towns that you are to assign to the Levites shall extend 1,000 cubits outside the town wall all around. You shall measure off 2,000 cubits outside the town on the east side, 2,000 on the south side, 2,000 on the west side, 2,000 on the north side, with the town in the center. This shall be the pasture for their towns. The towns you shall assign the Levites shall comprise the 6 cities of refuge that you are to designate for the manslayer to flee to which I shall add 42 towns. So here's the thing about the cities of refuge. So I guess the cities of refuge are Levite towns, and the cities of refuge are places for people who have unintentionally committed manslaughter. So almost the very end of the Torah. So you know, it's kind of interesting. There's a little bit here about justice, just a little bit about justice. So God spoke further to Moses. Speak to the Israelite people and say to them, when you cross the Jordan into the Canaan, you shall provide yourself with places to serve you as cities of refuge, to which a manslayer who has slain a person unintentionally may flee. So somebody who's committed manslaughter or just accidentally killed someone. The city shall serve you as a refuge from the avenger, meaning the person who wants revenge, so that the manslayer, the person who wants revenge, oh no, so that the person who's accidentally committed manslaughter may not die unless there is a trial before an assembly. The town that you shall assign shall be 6 cities of refuge in all. So basically, what they're saying is, let's say somebody killed someone and they said, oh, it's not my fault. I didn't mean to do it. I was carrying a shovel. I turned around because somebody said, hey, you. I turned around this way and my neighbor was standing right next to me and I hit him in the head with my shovel and they fell over dead. It wasn't my fault. I was just clumsy. So they can go to the city of refuge and wait for a trial. I mean, I can tell you cases about this in prison, people I know who are in prison, who have been in prison for a long time. So one is you're in the car, say you're a woman, you're in the car, your boyfriend goes in and shoots someone, kills them, comes back out to the car, drives away. Guess what? You're guilty of um, being an accomplice. You can be tried for murder. So there's one. Three cities shall be designated beyond the Jordan. The other three shall be designated in the land of Canaan. They shall serve as cities of refuge. These cities shall serve the Israelites and resident aliens among them for refuge, so that anyone who kills a person unintentionally may flee there. Anyone, however, who strikes another with an iron object so that death results is a murderer. The murderer must be put to death. So, I guess my ladder example wouldn't work if my ladder was made of iron. But if my ladder was made of wood, maybe it would work. If one struck another with a stone tool that could cause death, and death resulted, that person is a murderer. The murderer must be put to death. So if I've got a mortar and a pestle, and I hit my neighbor over the head with a mortar, then that's considered murder. Similarly, if one struck another with a wooden tool that would cause death, and death resulted, then that person is a murder. Oh, so even a wooden shovel wouldn't work. So if I turn around and I accidentally hit my neighbor in the head with a wooden shovel, then I guess it's the act of striking someone. But what if you strike someone and it's an accident? I don't know. It is the blooded avenger who shall put the murder to death. That is, who shall put them to death upon encounter. They don't say what a blood avenger is here, but I'm assuming a blood avenger is the person that wants revenge. So too, if one pushed another in hate or hurled something at them on purpose and death resulted. So obviously, if you shoot somebody with an arrow, that would cause you to be put to death. Or if one struck with their hand in enmity and death resulted. So if you hit somebody with your hand and they died, then that person would be put to death. Okay. But if the person pushed them without malice, aforethought, or hurled any object at them unintentionally. So what if you were throwing fish at the Seattle market and you accidentally threw a fish at somebody and it killed them? Then that's not a good example. Never mind. Just forget I said that. Or inadvertently dropped any deadly object of stone and death resulted, though not being an enemy and not seeking to harm. So let's say you're building the pyramids and you accidentally let a rock go rolling down the pyramids and it falls on someone, then that's an accident, right? If you're working above someone. In such cases, the assembly shall decide between the slayer and the blood avenger. The assembly shall protect the manslayer from the blood avenger, and the assembly shall restore to the former to the same city of refuge. There he shall remain until the death of the high priest, who is anointed with the sacred oil. So if you committed manslaughter, then you can go live in a city until some guy dies. And whenever he dies, then you can go home again. It's it's kind of strange, but it's at least it's an effort at something. But if the manslayer ever goes outside the limits of the city of refuge and is found by the blood avenger outside of the city of refuge, and the blood avenger kills the manslayer, no blood guilt on that account. For the slayer must remain inside the city of refuge until the death of the high priest. After the death of the high priest, the manslayer may return home. Such shall be your law of procedure throughout the ages in all your settlements. If anyone slays a person, the manslayer may be executed only on evidence of a witness. The testimony of a single witness against a person shall not suffice for a sentence of death. Also, you may not ransom for the life of a murderer who is guilty of a capital offense. They must be put to death. Nor may you accept ransom in lieu of flight to a city of refuge, enabling someone to return home before the death of the priest. You shall not pollute the land in which you live, for blood pollutes the land. The land can have no expiation for blood that is shed on it, except by the blood of the one who shed it. So that's it. That the last part there is the really good stuff. You know, it basically says don't commit murder, don't don't commit wrongdoing. It's really concerned with murder. I mean, murder is like a huge breach in public trust. And there was a lot of murder going on in the world. There was a lot of death, a lot of destruction, a lot of lawlessness. And here's a text telling you how, in some ideal future, people will behave differently. And to a large extent, it's true. I mean, people are, especially in the modern world, are relatively free of murder. I mean, murder still happens here. It would happen a lot less. Too bad there's nothing here in the Torah about a gun. It'd be great if the Torah wrote about guns. God saith, thou shalt not owneth a gun, whatever. It's like, thou shalt not slay with a gun. The gun slayer shall be have their gun taken away from them. I don't know. Anyways, well, I guess that's all I've got for today. This has been Parsha Matot-Masei. Thanks so much for joining me. And I just have, well, there's still about 10 or 11 Parshas left. So, but I am caught up. So I will work this weekend on the beginning of Devarim, which I think is actually called Parsha Devarim. It's the beginning of Moses' really long speech. If you think it was bad, like, I don't know if you ever listened to any of Fidel Castro's speeches. I'm like, I'm a leftist. I pay attention to leftist stuff. It's like, so I never watched one of Fidel Castro's speeches, but Fidel Castro was known for just going on and on and on forever, like 7-hour speeches, where he just talked forever about whatever, the revolution. And this is kind of like Moses. It's like when I think about Devarim, Deuteronomy, that's kind of what it makes me think of. It's like Moses is just, this is like Moses' big kvetch. He just gets to go, he just gets to say it all. This is, it's the end of his life, it's his death. He gets to explain what the meaning of life was to him. And he's kind of like, he's telling everybody, as the founder of the state, like what he hopes they'll do in the future, like he hopes that you're going to be good and that you listen to him and you pay attention to what he said. Because if you don't, you're in trouble and here's all the shit that's going to happen to you. So that's basically my summary of Devarim. But we'll get into it in detail as I finish up Atheist Torah Study. So I'm pretty excited. I'm almost done with this. I don't think I'll ever do this again. I won't ever take a vow to do this. But thanks for listening if you happen to be here today. And take care.